Hi everybody, it's me again, MicheleMarieDalene, and of course who wants to first of all let you know that we put the video up last night for the Winter Storm Nemo. Sorry it took us so long to get it out to you, and of course you are cordially invited to watch it, and of course give us your input, comments, suggestions, ideas, whatever. And so that's what we did last night, we got that up for you. Today, of course, is the day after Friday. It's Saturday afternoon, and we don't have much planned for you today. It just happened to be that we just... What are we doing today? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know either. So maybe today you could just say we're just kind of kicking the tires around. But actually, I wanted to talk to you also about some things that are not quite as exciting. And then today I found a new event that's come up, which I guess still goes in the not as exciting category. We're having some problems with the trackball on the eMac. That eMac trackball was used on the iMac before it, and the it's a Microsoft IntelliPoint PS2 USB trackball. It's an Internet Explorer. Trackball, and there's something wrong with the cord on it. Now, there's already something wrong with the trackball side of it. So again, it's just gives you an idea what we have to go through here. Got hardware that's showing its age and needs to be replaced. But the problem is that we don't have the resources to just go out there and replace hardware willy-nilly, because it costs a lot of money to do that. So we're trying to keep the equipment we got working, but it's getting to becoming more and more problematic as we go. Now, so which means I wanted to ask you if you can make a donation. Okay, I know I said I really wouldn't want to do that. I don't, but you can't use a computer if you can't use the mouse, can you? Not unless it has a keyboard option. And we know that Windows XP, Windows 98, Windows Me, Windows NT, probably Windows 2000 or whatever, probably won't let you use the mouse, or won't let you use a keyboard for mousing around either. So of course I'm using a Mac, so under OS X, so it's really more problematic if your Mac isn't working and the mouse isn't working on your Mac, because obviously the mouse is the tool that the Mac is primarily known for, not the keyboard. The keyboard is almost like an afterthought from Apple. But that's pretty much about it. Of course, we ought to tell you people that we still are offering that, or we're still holding that little contest. Exactly. In fact, Michelle, I think we need to, as you and I were discussing when we were getting up this morning, is you were going to let me try to do a video one day, and well, I don't see a problem with that. I just, right now, there's nothing to talk about. What about that new thing that the Congress, the Library of Congress librarian says about the DMCA saying that unlocking your cell phone is illegal? Yeah, that was, okay, yeah, we can talk about that. You want to do it? Yeah, I'll do it. Okay. The Library of Congress librarian has said and has reminded Congress that the Digital Millennium Copyright Act also protects cell phone manufacturers and their copyright and their secrets from phones from being unlocked or jailbroken. And there is a grace period, or was a grace period, for the end of January, where you could still get your phone unlocked without anybody worrying about the FBI breaking your door down. Now, I don't think they're going to go through that much work on an individual to break your door down and steal your phone and all that. But it's obviously several concerned groups have gone out on the internet onto We the People website at the whitehouse.gov and have put up a petition to ask President Obama to intervene and to allow American people to continue to have the right to unlock their phone. The reason why that may seem so silly, but it can be important, is because people sometimes buy cell phones from other people that are locked to providers. Sometimes people, when they end the contracts in good standing, just never think about unlocking their phone. Right. And so those people have this phone in their hands that's still locked to a certain provider. Maybe they move out of the service area of the provider, or the company has gone up, has given up and has quit serving that area, or they're bankrupt, such as Altel, where now people got stuck with these phones that are tied to a provider that does not exist or does no longer services that area, and they want to use it with another company that is available. So in the old days, you could sometimes do is you could call or get onto the website of an unlocking service that would unlock your phone for you so that you could use it with another provider. It's much more popular for GSM phones than it is for TDMA, CDMA, iDen, or any other phones. Of course, it's unlocking. And if you remember, Michelle did on her phone unlocked last week. So now she can use AT&T, T-Mobile, whatever GSM wireless network is available in her area, Cincinnati Bell. So she can go anywhere. However, on the other hand, today, under the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, if Michelle was to do that, and she had an iPhone 4S, she would immediately be prosecuted and sent to jail, or at least charged a very steep fine. But then again, if Michelle was to buy an iPhone 4S, she probably would more than likely be under contract. Correct. So the problem is that we feel other people who originally put the petition up on the whitehouse.gov We the People website claim that this unlocking prohibition is in is not in the rights and the good taste of the American people, for people who have bought that phone themselves and they own the equipment and they have fulfilled, at least as far as they know, the 2-year contract. And so therefore they should have the right to use that phone on any other provider, because the provider has been paid handsomely in contract fees for the 2-year term, or 1-year term in some cases. Exactly. So, I guess the question is Michelle, is how do you feel about unlocking and phones, and is it really such an ethic and moral issue? I have had a lot of iPhones. I mean, not iPhones, but I've had a lot of Nokias. And I have always completed my terms of my contract. And so, after my contract terms expire, I want to unlock the phones. Now, there's many code cracks for the Nokia Online, such as the DCT3, the DCT4 handsets, which most of mine were. But in this case, we're talking about is you buy the phone. Yeah, it's yours. Yes, you own it. Yes, the contract's over. Yes, the company may went out of business. Possibly. Okay. So in other words, you can't contact their unlocking department and say, "Hi, my name is MicheleMarieDalene. I have a phone from you. that someone sold to me. I don't have a contract with your company, but I want to unlock this phone. Of course, they'd rather not. Of course, they'd rather not, because you're basically saying to themselves, "Hi, I'd like to sign up for another 2-year contract." But the contract subsidy was already paid. So that's extra gravy in their pockets if they were allowed to continue to do that. And they do a little bit all the time. Okay, so, or you get stuck with a 2-year contract with a company, and then, even though you wanted to get your own phone unlocked, yeah. And then once the phone is with your company with the 2-year term of the contract, and you're the one who provided the phone, guess what? Now, you can get it unlocked more than likely. But the problem is that's 2 years after you wanted to unlock the phone. Yeah, that's kind of stupid, but okay, that does happen. Yes, it does happen. Do you think that the cell phone industry has come a long way since back in the 90s when you first signed up for SNET Links cellular service here in Willimantic when you lived in Willimantic? Well, now that's a very typical question to answer, because my answer may not necessarily be somebody else's answer. Because first of all, back in 1994, when I had a back phone, which is a realistic CT1055, the cellular service then was much more primitive than it is now. I mean, we forget that's almost 20 years. It's hard to believe it. It is hard to believe it. 20 years. Yeah. I mean, back then, most cell phones were analog or TDMA. They didn't have SMS, short message service, or I'll call it texting now, or multimedia message services, or MMS. In the United States, most of the phones are analog. Some are digital, but those are TDMA, not CDMA. Oh yeah, CDMA did exist as well at the time. So it was definitely, it was CDMA. Was that right? Did CDMA come out first? I mean, in the 90s? No, CDMA came out in the 2000s, but it came out in the early 2000s. The first CDMA phone was from Sprint. That was IDEN. Yeah, no, that was CDMA. IDEN, which was by Nextel, was another competing format. And then, of course, there was the 1996. We had T-Mobile. They came into the United States. They originally existed as VoiceStream. Yep. Then they bought VoiceStream. They became T-Mobile. And of course, Deutsche Telekom actually worked really diligently to spread their network throughout the United States. At first, they were stuck for 2G for years and years and years and years. And only in the last 2 years had they began the migration to 3G. And now they're upgrading to LTE, but it's going to take them a while. LTE, latest technical evolution. I guess they ran out of letters. I couldn't figure out what else to call it. Right now, T-Mobile is working with HSPA Plus for the 3G network. Really, it's really 4G. It's really 3G, because 3G is, this thing of it is 3G plus. Yeah, okay, 3G plus sounds like a better name for, instead of saying nationwide 4G, it's just say nationwide 3G plus. Yeah. And then, of course, you have, as I said, true 4G network service is probably going to take a long time to come here into the United States because of one reason. It really drains your battery really fast on cell phones that support it, because it just sends a massive amount of energy out through the wireless to do data processing and things like that. Sure, it might be wicked smoking fast, but your battery is going to be drained wicked smoking short time, too. Yeah, so that's kind of like where compromise has to be made between speed versus efficiency of the battery. Yeah. But maybe that may be a good topic where we're going to put this in technical today, in the technology category, because of the sections of the blocks. Battery life on the new cell phones versus battery life on the old cell phones. If you remember watching the iPhone 3GS, Google Plus, and iPhone upgrades, we were talking about the batteries on the iPhone, and this includes all of them. All the batteries on the iPhone from the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 5 are non-user replaceable. Well, they're not supposed to be replaced by the users. Okay, that's a little better answer. The battery is buried inside the phone itself. It's really kind of hard to get at it. It's it's kind of sits in place. Apple will fix your phone for you pretty much for a pretty reasonable fee. So instead of potentially breaking your phone, which is tiny little micro circuits in there, I say micro, I mean micro. We're talking about circuit boards in that phone that has little parts about the size of a flea. Ouch. I mean, we're talking parts that small, traces that are thinner than a human hair. And there's no way that some ham-fisted person like me is going to be able to get in there and fix the thing. In fact, you'd be lucky if you don't break it first into a million pieces. So you see, the problem is that if you want a cell phone, if you want a good cell phone, okay, and yet you want one that has going to give you good talk time, then there are things that you have to choose. First of all, what kind of phone are we going to choose? Well, let's go through the types. And when I say types, we have to understand we're going to be talking about in the general classifications here. Smartphones, which are really handheld little computers, and they are very sophisticated, mind you, or phones that are more just phones. Or it's one that can just make and receive phone calls, maybe do short text messages, and the other one that can go ahead, do all that, including play bingo and access Facebook and MySpace and play SimCity 3. Yeah, okay. So, what's the advantage of each? Well, if all you ever really do is just talk on the phone in the first place, then either phone will work for you. But if the regular just talk only phones can be pretty inexpensive, especially since the most commonly known of the phones of this type is the Nokia line. Nokia and also some, of course, the such as the DC2, the DC3, DC4 series phone. They're not really fancy. The Nokia 6340i is in this league. It is a simple bar phone. Now, does it make much difference in power consumption for bar versus flip phones or sliders? I don't know about the sliders loom, but I don't really think there is much of a difference in power consumption if you're comparing feature for feature. The two phones are almost in the same league. Okay. It just turns out that in many cases that the flip phone circuit boards are a little smaller because you got to deal with the hinge that holds the two phone parts together, and so there's definitely has to be a trade-off somewhere. But unfortunately, I think the trade-off in most flip phones is in fact is that they're kind of small. All right. Now, the other thing is physical keyboard versus touchscreen. Now, many people like the touchscreen, but many other people really prefer a physical keyboard. Let me compare what I'm talking about with a phone I have right here. This is not a physical keyboard. This is a Samsung Galaxy S. This is the first one that was the first of the S series. It's getting a little case here. It's a T-Mobile brand of phone. It's really beautiful. It's a nice. It's about the size. It's a little bit bigger than an iPhone 3GS. It's about the size of an iPhone 4, and it's a touchscreen. Yeah, you see, it's dirty. It's got fingerprints all over it. Somebody's been eating potato chips lately. Yeah, me. Yeah, I figured that's why we're getting balanced. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that these phones have all the electronic that's resulted at or decoding where your finger is. It takes power. Okay, it takes energy to use these. So, whereas having a physical keyboard, the keyboard matrix scanner is a lot less power intensive. And, of course, you've got physical touch keys so you can tell when you're pressing something. You know, because hopefully it will send you a tactile response back. Or at least you can be sure you're pressing the button square on because you'll be able to feel it with your fingers. You can't really feel anything with that phone. However, there is a new type of technology that Apple is coming up with, patenting it with the work from Owens Corning, which is called it's a thin type of glass that actually allows for tactile feedback in return, where that part of the glass can actually be raised up to make a small slight bump so you can actually feel the key. It's actually very fascinatingly interesting. Now, when we compare battery power, we also need to compare color display versus monochrome. Okay, because obviously, if you're just talking on the phone, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if your phone can display 16 million colors or only can display 4 shades of gray. Because, after all, you're only talking on the phone. So, usually on the less fancy feature of basic phones, there is no need for color display. Right. Fancy ringtones, I hate the fuckers anyway, but if you happen to like them, they take a lot more. A phone has to be much more sophisticated innards to play fancy ringtones, whereas those that can play just a simple, 8-note ringtone system can, like on a Nokia 6340i, which is polyphonic. You can at least, those are very simple ringtones. They don't take a lot of energy. They don't take such an advanced software program to make music real ringtones out of the series of ones and zeros. And then, of course, there is the issue of cameras. Obviously, person who wants a basic phone is not going to need a camera. Or maybe once in a very great while they might need one, but it's not really such a big deal that they're going to go ahead and diss the phone if it doesn't have a camera. Remember, if you're trying to get a phone that is going to be something you like, between the two major classes of phones, you need to consider what you need with it. If you're going to have a phone that has a touchscreen, camera, MP3 player, web browser, built-in support for Java, uses either iOS or Android, you're going to be using a lot more power than if you have a phone that has a very simple type of operating system that does maybe 1 or 2 things at a time, just makes and receives phone calls, no camera, no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, no anything extra, and the ringtones are somewhat a simple series of beeps. That phone is going to run a lot longer given on the same battery pack than the other one, because that one will have more power available to it because it doesn't use as much. It's like drinking this coffee here, okay? Now, right now I usually use this sippy port, okay? But if I wanted to take this lid off and I was to drink it without the lid, in other words, I could drink, and my mouth is glur, 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 right? Going right down there all at one time, right? But in here, I only just get a little sip at once, which for me nursing my coffee along is pretty fine. But people tend to think that now to compensate for the battery consumption of these other phones, what companies would like to have done, but because of practicality, you really can't do it. And as we find out from the Dreamliners from Boeing, there is a limitation of lithium-ion, okay, which is this. These phones really need a battery to make them equivalent to the simple phones. Really need a battery that's about 4,000 mAh. Not only is that big, but the bigger the battery, the more likely something can go wrong and possibly can catch fire. In fact, these happened in some of the early Apple laptops, that the battery packs, because of design glitches, caught fire, and happened a few PCs as well. Yeah, I remember that from what you showed me in the archives. And so the solution is the manufacturers of cell phone companies want to keep the battery relatively small because lithium-ion batteries are really not the best choice to everybody. But there is other battery choices you can use, such as nickel metal hydride, NiMH batteries. May not have the energy density of lithium-ion, but they also do not have the notorious habit of having to worry about toxic chemicals, polluting your landfills and things like that. And it's they're cheaper because it's made out of materials that are much more readily available and easier to manufacture into a battery. But the energy density isn't there. What about other kind of batteries? Now we're talking here about what we call secondary batteries. These are the ones that can be used multiple times. Regular storage type batteries, which includes many chemistries. But for the cell phone uses, you have three major classifications. Earliest, Nickel-Cadiumn. Nickel-Cadiumn batteries were okay, but they had a notorious habit to slowly discharge over the time, even if they were sitting on your shelf. Okay, the solution for those guys was you would have to charge them up, and of course they get warm. And that getting warm for nickel-cadmium was actually considered quite normal. But the problem is because if it got warm too fast, it would mess the battery up pretty bad. So you had to charge them slowly, preferably by compensating by temperature, to make sure that the battery was not overcharging too fast. What they learned from nickel-cadmium certainly applies to lithium-ion as well, but for next type of battery is nickel metal hydride, and which also is, we're talking about in the order of their when they first start showing up. Nickel metal hydride batteries are a replacement for nickel-cadmium. Nickel metal hydride is a green type battery. That is, it doesn't contain any toxic metals, i.e. in this case cadmium, and doesn't contain any toxic chemicals, as you'll see in lithium-ion. It provides a lot better energy density than lithium-cadmium, meaning the batteries can be physically smaller, because it's using much more readily available materials. Here in the United States, the batteries can be made much less expensive. But for iPhones and Samsung Galaxy S's, this battery is just not going to be able to produce the kind of current capacity that we're talking about we need for these products. Right. Okay. Then we get into the solution to that was the lithium-ion. There's actually two categories. You have the lithium-ion polymer, and you have the older lithium-ion, which is like a liquid battery. Okay. The lithium-ion polymer allows the battery to be shaped and molded into a variety of shapes and styles, so that you can put them, mold them into the cases of the product you're using. The problem is this stuff contains highly toxic materials. It contains an electrolyte that is not only flammable, but is also very corrosive. And it's these batteries have to be disposed of properly. These batteries can catch fire very easily. And these same battery technology is also being used in your mini hybrids. But in that case, they're using the liquid chemical type battery, lithium-ion. Okay, which means they use a liquid electrolyte instead of a paste or a gel. They're very critical to charging rates. They're very critical to discharge rates. They have the unfortunate distinction of being the first known as the first batteries that, for the large point, has caught fire in many laptops. They certainly have also earned the only large case distinction of the number of Dreamliner Airlines and 787s by Boeing that have had battery problems with lithium-ion. They were the first lithium-ion battery to be used in an airplane was in the Dreamliner 787s from Boeing, and they are right now they're reviewing what has caused the batteries in those two planes to fail. One that landed in Logan International Airport and one that barely got off the tarmac in Japan. So, there's a lot of things to know about batteries, but these guys, lithium-ion is really not the best choice, except for energy density. Since most smartphones, or which I really should call them phone computers, these things need the power density. So right now, lithium-ion is the only choice at this point that can give it. The nickel metal hydride can't do it. Lithium, Nickel-Cadiumn, forget it. How big of a battery pack would it take for nickel metal hydride to provide the power that these modern phones would need? Well, let's take a look at the battery in the Samsung Galaxy, for instance. Because this, at least I can open this up. I can't open up my iPhone 3GS because it doesn't have a removable battery. And I can tell you, it's not easy. There you go. This is typical lithium-ion battery, lithium-ion polymer battery. Okay, and let's see. Let me look at it in English, please. Okay. Doesn't seem to say anything in English. It just says recyclable. 3.7 lithium-ion battery. It doesn't tell me how many milliamps this is. Milliamp hours. I'm gonna make it educate guess. This guy here, you can see from the shape of it, consists of a foil of lithium-ion material. It just basically is made. It's the way there. It's just got a little context on the bottom here. See them? But basically, what I saw on how it's made, these guys are basically made in the machine. They wrap them the two materials, and then they have the electrolyte inside the battery. So really, this is not a battery at 3.7 volts. This is a cell. This is a power cell. It's a single cell. Okay, it's not a battery. A battery consists of two or more cells. Now, if this is a 6.4, or in this case, a 7.4 volt lithium-ion, that would be a battery. This is a power cell. Okay, don't get the two mixed up because there is a difference. Okay. Oh, here we go. It's 1,500 milliamps hours. Okay. Now, to make the same battery in lithium-ion, it would take about twice the size. So, and also, each lithium-ion, each nickel metal hydride battery only produces 1.2 volts, which means you would still need 3 lithium-ion batteries in here, and the pack would still be twice as thick. It would be twice as thick, or it could be twice as long, because I have a cell phone battery, and my cell phone that is about the size of this. It's a 1,500 milliamp hour battery. Then that's exactly the way it is. It's a lithium-ion, nickel metal hydride, and that's exactly what it does. So, okay, so that's interesting to know. Now, So you see, the problem is, folks, is these cell phones companies have to decide a battery that's going to produce power that's going to be strong enough to run all this electronic gear. Now, at the same time, runtime, lithium-ion batteries. If you were to put the same technology battery, actually my iPhone, my phone that's at my lap, or my the Nokia does have a lithium-ion battery in it. If you put the same battery into a phone like this, it's not going to run long. It's going to be drained poof really quick because it just takes so much more power. It's just like I said, take the sippy cup off this thing and start gurgling down the coffee without the cup lid here, and you're going to get a big. Now, I just consumed a whole mouthful of coffee in less than 2 seconds. To do the same with the lid, it takes me 3 times as long. So you see, the problem is how much current is available to the battery. Remember, milliamp hours in this case means how many milliamps per hour can that battery safely discharge. It does not mean how many hours that the battery has to live. In other words, if I have a 1500 milliamp hour battery, it doesn't mean I only get a total available current of 1500 milliamps, but it does mean that the battery is only going to be allow me to safely withdraw 1500 milliamps in a single hour. Right? So, and then it gets complicated because we're talking about energy density, and that's a whole nother ballgame. Okay, we're back to what we were talking about again because apparently the cat kept shutting the computer off on us. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about battery chemistry, and some people tend to look at the battery chemistry as being the biggest part of the problem with the cell phone technology. Is that the cell phones need a modern cell phone, especially this is a representation of what I'm talking about. This is a Samsung Galaxy S, the original, and it's got a flat capacitance screen. It's got a 5 megapixel camera. It's got an MP3 player. It has a full web browser. It is 3G compliant, and takes power like a son of a bitch. The difference is, like I showed you earlier, this is the battery and this is removable, so you can replace it. And all this stuff, like I said, costs energy in the cell phone. So if you're really trying to get the maximum power out of your phone, then obviously you need to consider your needs. So let me ask that question, Michelle, because this is like what I didn't get a chance to ask you earlier. We did, but Cat interrupted it. I don't think it was Cat last time. No, I think it was a power failure. Okay, so because the other computer went off too. Alright, so of course with these studio lighting, we really can't tell because the lights run on batteries themselves. So when the power goes out, we don't know. We don't know until we go back and look at the computer monitor, and then we find out it has no screen. Yeah. Okay, so back to the computer. Yeah. Alright. First of all, first things first. You are working on a computer, and of course you're going to need to edit things. It's a hard, sometimes for me it's a hard thing because to choose the phone you want, because sometimes people start out going into the phone store and they have very specific guidelines of what they want, and either A, the salesman says you can't have the feature because it's not available, or it's going to cost you more, or I would say the first one is much more common than the second one. So let me give you an example. T-Mobile, to my knowledge, does not even sell a phone like this anymore. They only sell phones like this. And so, if you want to be able to have a phone that is simple phone, you gotta go to the aftermarkets. You gotta go to eBay, tag sales, used equipment shops, whatever. But let me just tell you right now, if you buy a refurb phone, make sure you get a warranty with it. Okay? Also make sure it's unlocked. If you're willing to unlock it yourself, it's no problem. Okay? The most common thing that will wear out on every phone, including the iPhone, is the battery. This happens to be a brand new old stock battery from Nokia. So this is a new battery. It goes into the phone like that. So always helps to have extra batteries. So also 3G versus 4G for a person who just wants to use it to talk on the phone is not even an issue. GSM versus CDMA versus IDEN versus LTE versus WCDMA versus HSPA plus. Okay, now let's go through these and break them down to the basic. Some of these protocols are actually extensions to earlier protocols. Okay, HPA plus LTA are all subsets of GSM. Okay, which stands for the Global Standards, which is mobiles, which is actually originally was a French acronym, and it later became as maintained as open source document through the GSMA, Global Standards Manufacturers Association. Okay, and it's a standard anybody can subscribe to. It's not that expensive if you want to get involved with the big guys that make phones. Okay, CDMA, which is, I don't even remember what it stands for, but it was originally marketed by Qualcomm, which has it's a proprietary closed source interface that you have to buy a license from Qualcomm for. Providers in the United States that use CDMA includes Verizon, Altel, U.S. Singular, unless they change. I know one provider did change. I don't know which one. I don't either. Virgin Mobile, Sprint, Metro PCS. Oh, that's alone is an interesting thing, considering Metro PCS is now belongs to T-Mobile, which is a GSM provider. GSM providers include CDMA, includes T-Mobile, AT&T, and Cincinnati Bell. There may be others as well. There's certainly Rogers and Fido and Canada. Now, the first thing is if you want to go buy a cheap phone, should you buy one that's GSM or should you buy one that's CDMA? Well, if you get a cell phone that is GSM, much more technology is available out there for you on the refurb department, because it will work most of the time with most of the major providers. There is some exceptions to the rule. Number one, dual band versus quad band phones versus single band phones. Well, Dual band means you got two frequencies. For example, in the United States, we use 800 and 1900. Okay? In Europe, they use 900 and 1800. So if you had a dual band phone as a European phone with European standards, it will not work in the USA unless it does 800 and 1900. In that case, you need a quad band phone. If you only got a single band phone and say it does 800, it probably only will work with AT&T, which is mostly 800 anyway. If it's 900, it's not going to work with anybody in the US anyway, so you might as well basically just find somebody in Europe who can work with a 900 megahertz phone. If it's a 1900, such as the Nokia 5190, you can use it with in the United States for 1900, which is T-Mobile, and there are some limited number of AT&T wireless cell sites that are also 1900. So you can check it out with that and find out what it works like. In the United States, the perfect phone would be the one that has both the 800 and the 1900 bands. So this phone is more than satisfactory because it is exactly that. It is a dual band phone. It supports USA 800 and 1900 megahertz. So this is a good phone to go for if you want a phone that will work with T-Mobile or AT&T. Now, this is a quad band phone. I won't go through all the details on this. These are both what I call slabs. This is definitely a slab. This is called a bar phone. And then we got flip phones. Flip phones, smaller. Smaller, unfortunately, doesn't necessarily mean better, especially with the keyboards. That's something else too. Is you got to be comfortable with your buttons. You're going to be using the thing. You got to be able to feel comfortable with how it works. I have an iPhone 3GS, which is my main phone. I use that one a lot. This is Android. I don't like Android. Okay, I think I have a friend who had the newer Android phone, and I did not like it even more than I don't like this one. It just happens to be this one plays videos pretty good, so that's a plus. So each phone has its own thing. The best thing to do is to try before you buy, if you can. If you get a contract, and usually there's an opt-out period in your contract, use it. Try that phone, kick the tires, drive it around the data block, find out if it feels good in your hand. See if it sounds good. See if the controls are easy to use. And if that's what meets your needs, then go ahead and keep the phone and commit yourself to the 2-year contract. But if you're buying a second-hand phone, make sure that likewise that there's a return on the policy that is in support of you. For example, that will allow you to try the phone for 30 days. Most of you to make sure it works, but also to make sure that it works for you, because it can be functionally perfect phone, but if it doesn't meet your needs, or if it feels awful and and the keys don't feel like the way you want your keys to feel, then there's no reason to keep it. If it feels like like it's a part of you, then you got to keep her. Yeah, that's important, isn't it? Because the phone has to feel good to you. Absolutely. Alright, so given this video is getting kind of long, and I think that we should shorten this up and to just remind people about the future. Yes, please subscribe to the channel. That's so easy. It doesn't take much time. I mean, if you watch the videos long enough, you know what I'm talking about. If you're watching this videos through the blogspot, and you need to subscribe to the main channel, it's really easy. It's just go to http://www.youtube.com/user/bichelA4, and then it'll bring you right to the page, and then you just click on the subscribe tab, and that'll get you and keep you abreast of any new changes on the videos that come up, any new videos, any comments, and ever. And that's another thing we'd like to welcome you to. Please talk to us. Yeah, we'd like to know what you got to say. Always. Every day. And so, Here, I hope this video will help you out if you're trying to decide what to do. And if you have any questions about cell phones, we may not be the best perfect answer people, but we will answer your questions to the best of our ability. So if you have a question, because I have had cell phones since bag phones, such as the Radio Shack CT1055. So trust me, I've seen cell phone services. I've seen phones of all shapes, sizes, colors. I've used quite a few of them too, so I have some personal hands-on experience with many phones. So if you have questions about phones, which ones to choose, well, don't be afraid to ask questions, and we will answer them to our best that we can. And of course, since this is a Snow Green, North American Snow Green, you can ask other questions too. Yes, you can. And also, if you're on Facebook, please check out the new North American Snow Green channel. That's right. It's just called North American Snow Green. Click on that and put that in the search and you'll find it. And click like and you'll keep abreast with any new events and Facebook. Yep. And also, of course, we're on Google. We're on Google. We're on MySpace. We're on Twitter, for God's sakes. Yeah. We're not on Reddit yet, but maybe that might be next. Reddit. Reddit. R-E-D-D-I-T. Reddit. Okay. Well, maybe we'll see what happens. Yep. So keep us contact with us. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you like to see, and we will see if we can make it happen. Absolutely. Good night, everybody. Good night.